So,
This
Nomi, what are we going to talk about this week?
same thing we talk about every week, Cam. Whether or not we're together chugging mimosas or toasting Bloody Marys in the mid-afternoon, this is our venue to gossip, sip some tea, and react to the on-screen love stories that catch our attention. It was a pretty uneventful week. There was just, what is it? It's early. It's nothing major is going on outside. Everyone's just hunkering down. So, yeah, for me, the social life was a little quiet.
Agreed.
So, but did you watch anything this week? Did you see anything worth watching or anything that you want to convince me that I need to watch?
I got a good one, but you should watch it. I know you want to have an attitude about it and say, no, I'm not going to watch it, but you should watch it. I think you will surprise yourself. Bling Empire on Netflix. So for the people that don't know, it's basically a reality show. It's kind of like The Hills, but with crazy rich Asians. And when I say crazy rich Asians, they are so crazy rich. It's so ridiculous how crazy rich they actually are. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you guys got bank, like real bank, like it's all real estate. Like their families own like all of the malls in like Singapore and stuff like that. I'm like, y'all are next level. You just walking into stores trying on all of the biggest jewels. Like everyone in that store can't even get over themselves fast enough because you're in there. One of the people had Dior come into their house. You can appreciate that. You can appreciate some luxurious shit.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean, I can appreciate it, but somehow it's like it's weird, and it's weird too because it's like the only one of those kinds of reality shows I watch are like not black ones because I feel some kind of way about like the black people on TV in reality way. Like I like that's just like too much, it's like too close. But I can watch like all the other people. But I feel like this is interesting because it's the first time that Asians are getting like this treatment. But at the same time, I like don't want to be like welcome to the club of crap. I mean, this is just nonsense show.
It's not crap. I kept forgetting that I wasn't watching because I mean I know all these reality shows are scripted.
Yeah.
But if this show is so scripted, because I kept thinking I wasn't watching a reality show. I was sitting there and I was like, this show, I'm thinking like, something on regular TV, not reality show. And then I'm thinking, no, these people are supposed to be real people. Like, I'm like, there's no way they just found a bunch of actors to say this was a reality show.
I feel like they're always really produced, but this one, I don't know. This one sounds like
I know what you mean. They are all really produced, but not like this. Not like this. Like I really was like, every other reality show wishes the cameras were whatever drones they was flying over things to get these angles. They don't have that over. Well, they in LA, so it's still over here. But apparently, all these other shows, they ain't got the money for that.
Well, these people probably were like, here's a few million to make it look good. We're not going out like that. I don't think I'm gonna watch it. I feel like I'm not gonna find time for it unless it's like in the bowels of summer. But there's one show that I think
watch one daggone episode. Get out of here.
I know. I'm just saying at some point I will. There's just so many things to watch. I just can't imagine myself wasting my time with that. But and like I watch things like that, like like Blown Away is like the glass blowing show on Netflix.
Yeah, I've already watched. I got excited. I saw season 2. I said, oh shit, yeah. You see, so if you thought you was gonna talk to me about blown away, I'd be like, no, boo, I already watched them.
I'm just saying, I watched like Blown Away, I watched all those things.
The second season, they wasn't as good as the first batch. They wasn't as good. I wasn't that taken by any of their things. They were good, but they weren't like the first season.
Yeah, the woman that won the first season, the top 2 of the first season were just like,
yeah,
I was blown away.
She was on an episode of not Cake Boss, but Cake Boss, he does like a competition show against artisans that do something in a different medium, but then he makes a cake in this big grand way. So he made like a
what is that? No, wait. So stop. Hold on. So Cake Boss has a show that, what?
Yeah, Cake Boss has a show. It's a competition show where he goes against different artists and they use their medium to create whatever this thing is. And then he has to create something as well. And they got to guess, like, I guess they get judged on what looks better. That's what it's called, is Buddy versus Christmas. So everything had a Christmas theme, but he worked against other artists that worked in different mediums. So she did something Christmas themed, but she made it out of glass. And he made a big ass cake that was Christmas themed.
Right, and it says a variety of non-cake artists. So a bunch of artists come together. They do Christmas in their medium.
Yes. And he does it in his.
Right. And so they okay, so that makes sense to me. That's what I was like, I didn't understand. And that actually, like I said, sounds like the coolest thing that we've mentioned so far. As I wanted people to find that show.
All right, so that's what it's called.
Okay, that makes sense. Buddy versus Christmas. So, okay, this is my convince me. You've never seen In the Flesh.
Okay, so all right, so okay, here, okay, I will take this convince. All right, let's try it. All right, I'm ready for this one. In the Flesh.
I'm still trying to convince you about the other one, but my convince me is also like everyone should just watch In the Flesh. It was a BBC short series. I think only 3 series, but one of the series is like 3 episodes long. It's like really short. And actually the first series, I think it's 3 episodes long. And okay, so it does zombies really well and differently. Where there has been a zombie outbreak disease, right? Mm-hmm. But the federal government won. They figured out how to beat the disease. Not only did they figure out how to not get everyone to turn to zombies, but they figured out how to cure zombies. So basically, if you give them a shot every single day, they stay like, they're like back to themselves, but they're still a zombie. They still kind of need brains, but they're not like running around trying to kill everyone. So they can be like reintegrated into society. So this story is the story of like a boy who became a zombie, of course, you know, was running around the neighborhood, is now in his home being reintegrated into the community. And all the other zombies who have like basically killed neighbors, the other neighbors now have to like be like, oh, but you were sick, that's fine. And like try to, and the boy who's the main character, there's a really beautiful love story with him and his boyfriend.
Okay. Man,
so I'm just saying,
where can I find it to watch it?
In the Flesh it's a BBC show, so I think you can find it on BBC, but I think in America you can find it on Hulu.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, but I mean, that was a little bit like, that is a show that I stand by. That is like a zombie BBC show. And I'm sorry I have to mention it every time everyone mentions those things because it's so good. I feel like we should probably go on and talk about the show now. The actual show, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what we watched this week was Bridgerton, which was a TV show that came out in 2021. And it is created by Shonda Rhimes. Her production company is Shondaland for Netflix. Now, Shonda was previously wedded to a network television. And that relationship broke up because, among other things, I'm sure, but something having to do with Disneyland tickets. They didn't want to take care of Shonda. So she said, F you to the network, and she left for greener pastures of Netflix, who gave her a boatload of money because she makes shows that make a lot of money.
One leaves a major network to go to Netflix because the major was treating her wrong. And then in another case, Netflix was treating someone wrong, and then they went to a real major cable network, and it's like,
well, it depends. That's the thing. That's why that's why it's good to have competition in the market.
Well, yeah.
It's good for these artists because they like, if you work it, you can find a good deal for yourself, and it's not just like the old days where, remember, there was like a studio system and they basically had the actors as like, and the film creators like in their barns and they couldn't leave. So
Well,
that,
just that just that they don't have no across the board like good dealings. It's like Netflix does these things. You keep hearing these stories where things happen and
well, all
like
these
they're never.
companies have to make money. So yeah, they have to make different kinds of deals with different people. Well, your ability to negotiate for yourself is going to get you out on one side, because the fact is there are always companies that are trying to make money and get the most out of you for as little as they can, just because that's how people make money. And I'm not saying that that's how people should be making money, but I think that that's the reality of, big business in the United States, the capitalist system we live in. So there are no good guys.
They all suck.
Yeah, everyone sucks as much as they possibly can get away with. Um, but Netflix seems to have actually won in this, because this was like the number one show of the year so far. For weeks and weeks and weeks it was number one,
Believe
and
that.
we finally sat down to watch it. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And like I said, we sat down to watch it because we both heard so much about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was talking about it. I was bored one night and I was like, why not?
I know it's British, but and it's a period piecey thing, so it definitely sounds ye old timey to me. Like most of it, it was very like Gossip Girl meets Jane Austen kind of stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, that's the setup.
It's like this,
I would agree.
that diary fairy tale thing. But the coolest part that we both noticed was that
My girl,
the voice.
Drew's, oh shit, son. Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh, I met her once. I stopped everything I was doing and walked straight to her. I shook Julie Andrews' hand. I was like, oh shit. Fräulein Maria.
Oh my God.
But what I was going to say is, on my bucket list, I want to go to Saltwell, or whenever COVID is over, at least. And this has been on the list for a while. I want to go to Salzburg, Austria, because that's where they film The Sound of Music, and they give tours of everywhere. And I'm like, oh no. When I found about that, I was like, my life has changed. I'm going to Salzburg, Austria.
This is the most bizarre, like foreign fetish I've ever heard of, but I'm really into it. I'm really into it.
I really want to go. I just want the whole fake experience. Take me over there. Let me, like I said, sing Doe and Deer around the fountain. Just let me get my life, okay? Just let me do it.
All right, get your life then. You do that, and you'll do the spins on the hills. The hills are alive.
I will.
So we need to remember that the Regency period that everyone keeps talking about is the period of the show, and that it actually is really important for us because King George is the one whose tea we threw back in his face. He's the dude that we kicked off our lawn. And since that's the period we're in, the fashion of the time are these like these really amazing gowns and dresses that we see. They're not 100% like period appropriate. They have said that they're relying on classic shapes, but instead using really interesting and modern like fabrics and textures.
Yeah, I really did like the costuming in the show. That's one of the things that always gets me is the costume design, or whoever the stylist is.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll talk about it. If we talk about this show more, we'll talk about, the pieces that we liked so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are a few pieces in this show that dude, are amazing. And I can actually think of one thing in particular, one piece of clothing that is exactly what they're talking about. That's like the Regency period shape, but the modern fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't talk about that because that piece of clothing does not appear until like episode 7. I did find a fun fact for the show, and it actually relates to Lady Whistledown.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know this, but there is a famous story in the Georgian period of a courtesan who blackmailed her clients. When one particular aging courtesan ran short on funds, she decided to blackmail some of the most powerful men in Britain. Her name was Harriet Wilson. She was desperate for money so she published her memoir in 1825, and she released the salacious document in 12 installments.
Oh, Superhead's book?
No, Harriet Wilson. And so to maximize her earnings, Wilson wrote her former clients demanding money to keep their names out of the next installment. And so Wilson's tell-all included an ambassador, a foreign secretary, multiple dukes, including the Duke of Wellington, who was legit like the most famous military hero of the entire 1820s,
Well,
and one of
macaroni in a pot.
So in this first episode, those are kind of the things, like the timing, the feel, the look, the sound of the show. It's all very, classical. So being that it's this classical stuff, we normally tend to talk about stuff that are because we kind of were talking about it through a lens of modern dating and love. So it's interesting to me that we kind of let this one in here and even let this one be the starter of the whole thing, because it's actually, a period piece. So on its face, it doesn't seem to be that it fits the modern sort of.
It's not, it is a period piece, absolutely, but it doesn't give me Handmaid's Tale vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a period piece that's just going to be like, oh, this is a whole other time and place. The things that they talk about, especially because of the alliance that they form, wouldn't have happened anyway. Like this, as we start to talk about it, the plan that comes out of this probably wouldn't have really have happened anyway. You know what I'm saying? This whole thing, I don't know, that level of fantasy to me, it makes it seem more modern to me anyways. I don't know.
I see where you're talking about that. I'm still stuck on the fact that you don't realize that The Handmaid's Tale is about today.
See? All right then. See?
I'm still confused about that part. But
I'm like,
that's a whole other conversation.
Well, no, I've never watched it. I just figured from seeing the costumes and all that stuff that I've never seen it before. So that's my whole thing. If it really is just that they're dressed in some weird way and this is supposed to be some future times where everybody looks like, like a Amish lady, then fine.
It is future times where everybody looks like an Amish lady.
Okay, fine.
But just like this show, which is set in the past and everyone looks like you old-timey, in both of those instances, I think that the problems that they face inside of the show are actually modern problems. So even though the face of the thing looks like it has no relation to today, the actual substance of the show is really all about today.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I actually think that that's true. After having watched Bridgerton, I really think that's true about Handmaid's Tale. I'm not sure I think that's true about Bridgerton. I'm not sure that any of the problems are actually modern. No, I think maybe we did make a mistake.
They're not modern problems. They're all through the test of time problems. That's all it is.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't. And we're going to talk about this as we go. Actually, you know what? This is the perfect time to say, hi guys, this is Nomi, and I'm going to interrupt this broadcast for a mini moment. From time to time, we're going to have major realizations after taping, or we'll want to make minor corrections to comments we make during the show. So occasionally, before we get going with the commentary, I'll pop in for a mini producer's note like this one to set the record straight, orient you, or add our 2 cents. This time, when we looked at our opinions and the flow of conversation, we realized that there would be no way to really discuss everything we wanted to say about the series in one episode, but we're really not interested in doing an in-depth review of the entire series either.
So we've decided to split the difference and fit our review of the entire season into our first 2 shows. Just to be clear, we'll be leaving out our discussion of major themes that do not play out in this episode, like race, which doesn't get clarified until later. We look forward to talking in detail about our favorite fashion pieces, which do not appear in this episode either. And we'll also save our discussion on the mysterious identity of Lady Whistledown and get to the infamous on-screen depiction of the pull-out method next time we talk. Trust. Believe me, we want to talk about that stuff as much as you do. But for now, we'll leave that for a future conversation and keep this discussion to an in-depth dissection of the pilot. While I'm at it, I should also add a little sorry from us about the little clicking and ticking noises that you hear in the background. Unfortunately, we live in New York City and it was cold when we filmed this, so of course you hear all of our quaint little apartment heaters. Luckily, it's getting warmer, the heat's going to go off literally in a few weeks, and this won't be an issue. So, forgive us. It's cute, it's quaint, you love us. We'll do better soon. Oh, and one last note. I think our introduction says that Bridgerton was a 2021 show, but really it premiered on Christmas of 2020. So with that, I'll drop you back into our review of Bridgerton Season 1, Episode 1, Diamond of the First Water. Enjoy!
Let's dig into the substance of the show. So like actually at this point is when we're going to remind people that our review from here on out is going to contain spoilers. We can't keep it spoiler free anymore because we got to get to the nitty gritty. Mm-hmm. So we are about to discuss Bridgerton, Episode 1, Season 1. It's called Diamond of the First Water. And we are going to talk about it in terms of, we're actually going to talk about the plot and talk about it as it, as the episode unfolds. But before we even get into that part, I just want to start off with the official the title of the episode itself. Let's get into that a little because the title is Diamond of the First Water. And what that actually means is an exceptionally beautiful young woman. And it comes from the technical term used to describe diamonds. The degree of brilliance in a diamond is called its water. And so a diamond of the first water is an exceptionally fine diamond. So that's what the episode title means. And we'll meet our diamond soon. And the description of the episode itself is Daphne debuts on London's marriage market while Simon, the eligible Duke of Hastings, returns to town. A new gossip sheet penned by Lady Whistledown sets high society a-Twitter. Okay. Nope. So we are introduced to Lady Featherington. And
I wrote down tasteless, tactless mama. That's what I wrote down in my notes.
She's so awful. I love her. She's so awful. And it's the awful mama. And then there's like 3 sisters. And you can tell this is like the not attractive family. Like instantly you get it. And that they're tasteless and tacky and all that stuff. And there's
that's
like
really not the girls' faults. They all seem like they're kind of sweet, but they're not that.
They're just homely.
They're homely, and then their mama doesn't make anything better because I feel like the community is just like.
But anyway, we see their little house, and their house is fine. It's like a nice house. It's a middle class kind of situation, upper middle class thing. But then we see like the Bridgerton house, and we pan around the hustle and the bustle. There's a huge family inside. It's very like, you feel like there's servants and stuff. It's like very sexy and like, just grand. And inside we're waiting for Lord Bridgerton. In my head, I call him Bridgerton bro for some reason. I don't know why. So sometimes if I call him that, that's just what's going to happen. But
Anthony, that's his name. That's the oldest brother.
Anthony, yes. And while Anthony is, hanging out, we're looking for him. We learn from the voiceover, Lady Whistledown. We don't know yet, but we learn from the voiceover, which is Julie Andrews, that it's debut season. And we're getting ready for the presentation to the Queen at court. So we see the Queen. This is when we see that, like, wait, there's a Black Queen. This is really interesting and weird. Which is all. Well, we'll save the race conversation for another day. Let's not talk about it in the pilot. Anyway, and the queen then kisses Daphne, right? And so we see this like beautiful little Daphne. They're like all getting there. They're so happy and everything is so cute. And how are you feeling about the show at this moment?
I'm waiting to see what's gonna happen. Like, how does she and fine ass Ray J Jean hook up? Because that's the answer I was looking for. That was really why I was like, I'm gonna watch this, because everybody was like, but she's so plain though, and I was like, well, because here she comes.
I think this is the thing. Like, this picture is probably the best picture of her of the entire episode.
I agree, but no, she looks very porcelain doll right here. She looks absolutely fragile and precious. I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, and this is the moment where she's being presented, and the queen is like in love with her and stuff. And yes. I think it's really important to like stop here and think about, though, like you said, like people think she's plain, and I definitely think she's a little bit plain, and we can talk about this later. But I that's not a universal opinion.
I'm quite sure it isn't, but she's not hot.
I think that's not a universal opinion. I think we're going to talk about this later. So, but going on.
I mean, I don't want to get into people's types. I'm going to say, and the consensus of what most of my friends say, is she is plain. What she gives me is homegirl from 50 Shades of Grey. The dude that was playing Christian was way hotter than Mousy Secretary. And I never even watched those whole movies. I just wonder what people look like.
Well, that's kind of the point of the thing, right?
I know
that's
it
the point of that show. But that's not the point here. And I think that brown people like probably look at her and are like, yeah, great, plain. But like, I don't think white people feel like that. I feel like I did not see a preponderance of articles like that at all, but
but the other things going on, you get the little rundown of everybody else. So you get to see the Featheringtons. They're a mess and they're desperate. You see the Dowager Van. Oh no, I wrote this down because when they announce them when they come in there, it's the Dowager Viscountess Bridgerton. I was like, her name's official.
Oh yeah, that's the mom is the Dowager Viscountess.
Yes, I was like, all right. Even when they said the name for the Featheringtons, everybody was like, ugh, it's them.
Yeah. and what's great about it is like after this moment happens, and then like our little Daphne's kind of like floating on air, and her sister Eloise is just sitting there in the chair, kind of like scrunched down, and telling her, yeah, look at you. You did so great. The queen loves you. And now you have 200 other enemies. Like, all the other girls in the season are going to be coming for blood.
Yep.
So we have this, like, the gauntlet's been thrown down by the queen doing that. The queen really set up some things in play. We see Daphne there, and she's with her family, like kind of like glowing about what happened with the queen. And she's saying that she's telling Eloise like her success in this marriage season is gonna influence Eloise and all the marriage opportunities for everybody else. So she better like get on board with, getting excited about this season, because it's gonna mean a lot to the family. And even though that's happening, she still is saying that she wants a love as pure in her mom and her dad. So this to me, these two sentences are the start of a habit that Bridgerton is going to do, and it's going to keep doing throughout the whole series, is it can't freaking decide who Daphne is. It can't decide how smart she is. Yeah. Because half the time, Daphne will like straight up she'll like straight up look almost dead into the camera and be like, everything I'm doing right here is important for X, Y, and Z reason. I know what this means. I know what's happening. And then like in the next sentence,
she's like, what? Like, it's like you're looking at clear glass. Like, what are you looking at? Nothing.
It's like she never heard of social conventions and stuff. Like, it's just so weird. Like, she goes from sounding like really like an operator to sounding like a naive girl. in like a little back and forth and back and forth. And and the thing is like, they do it so many times, like almost literally like this in like one sentence. And then the next sentence is opposite, that like my head kept spinning for the whole show. So anyway, Elsie is amazing. By the way, Elsie's her sister that we met there, her little like dark haired sister. Why is she so adorable?
Do you think Eloise is adorable?
Eloise, sorry.
You think Eloise is adorable?
I think she's hilarious and adorable. I think she cracks me up, and all of her, like, the whole time when she's always having like a heart attack, and I freaking love her. I love her the most.
They're trying to make you think that 17-year-old, that 34-year-old neurotic woman was a 17-year-old girl, and that was the biggest scandal, Shonda.
Oh, so you don't like? Oh, you think she's the Andrea Zuckerberg of the cast?
I was like, well, I don't even know what that means.
90210. Did you watch 90210?
I mean, I did, but what do you mean? Like,
Andrea Zuckerberg was 26.
90210. All right, so
she was the oldest member of the cast. Gabrielle Carteris.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Anyway, I love that you think she's the Andrea of this cast. So anyway, the next scene after all of our the other thing about Eloise, she has the sexiest scratchy Miley Cyrus voice.
I maybe I would feel that way if she wasn't annoying. If she wasn't playing this annoying character, then maybe I would feel that way. But I can't get over. I can't think about her voice when she's running around smoking cigarettes, looking like a 34-year-old neurotic woman. And you would tell me she's 17? Nah, B. I don't believe it.
Anyway, the gossip comes out that day, the next day, and Lady Featherington she's hopping mad at the gossip pages, right? So because she's like debuting 3 girls at once, and the gossip page says that it basically implies that it's desperate, which I think it's desperate too. But
that's how they set them up to look.
Exactly. And Penelope, who is Eloise's friend, Penelope, she wants to delay like Eloise and go next season, but her mom won't let her. She's like throwing her out there. And then we get some news that there's a cousin coming over, and that that cousin staying is also going to be debuting in the same season. So it's like, what exactly is happening? We don't meet her yet, but we will soon. But after that, Anthony, who I call brother fuckboy in my notes.
Well, he is though.
He really is. He's telling this lady that he's always going to protect her, and he's fucking her up against a tree. I mean, I'm not sure about that, but and when this happened, I was thinking to myself, I heard there's going to be sex in the show, but like, does no one think about birth control? Because I mean,
right.
like they don't have condoms back then. Like every time,
they was just going at it.
And apparently, not only do they not have condoms, but apparently, the pull-out method isn't popular, because if it is, it wouldn't look as awkward. But that's not for this. That's not for this episode.
Macaroni in a pot.
When we get to the ball,
yes,
the first thing that I think that jarred me was that what's playing is this little teeny music, and I'm like, recognize it, and then I realize it's "Thank You Next" by Ariana Grande, but in some like in a classical remix that sounds Regency period appropriate. Well, the thing is that like, I guess I could like this more if this wasn't like the thing that every show does now. Like every show does this now and takes like modern pop classics and puts them in the style of whatever period or show. Like, every time we would hear.
They have to do it because for the young babies, it's going to perk their ears up, because I know it did it to me. I couldn't figure out what song it was the first time I watched it. But the next scene, when it's the Adam Levine or Maroon 5 song, whatever that one is, I knew that one immediately.
It's the Girl Like You, Girl Like You.
Yeah. But with the Ariana Grande song, I didn't realize that was what it was. When I rewatched it, I had the subtitles on and Netflix was like, thank you, next. And I said, oh, thank you, Netflix subtitles, for telling me what song this is. Because I still didn't know what it was. And then I was like, oh, yeah. But also that's just to be like, it's to pick up on the ears. Do you think?
I know, but what I'm saying is that all of prestige television is doing this now. It's so annoying. Like, it's really cool the first 3 times. But this is like the 537 millionth. And I'm like, it's just such a trend that's so annoying.
But what song was going to give you the right feeling? Let's say it wasn't a period piece, right? And it was something supposed to be set in modern day and they was at a dance.
It doesn't need to be a song. It doesn't need to be a pop song. It could be just an instrumental score like every fucking thing ever. But the thing is now, it's just a trope that when you have a period piece, what you should be doing is inserting a clever pop song remix in that period. So it's like the same thing in like whenever you're watching Westworld and you hear Paint It Black. Again, that's really cool the first 2 times, but then you're kind of like, great, the Stones, I get it. And then like, oh, and then what happens is you kind of every episode go like, wait for it. Oh, it's Nirvana. Wait for it. Oh, it's, it's just like, it's just such a trope right now. Again, when it first happened, it was really interesting and refreshing, but it's so overdone. I just want filmmakers to take a break. Just like a break.
Take a break.
But it's like, I get it. Because I agree. I liked Girls Like You, but the Thank You Next was really well. It was, again, the violin version that they're using is actually quite good. I played it for like 2 days after. But
of course, it's setting the scene even more because basically they're showing you that the dance cards are lined up. It actually shows you the brutalness of actual dating in 1831. You could dead be with a girl that you like, and this dude be like, "So I'm on your dance card. We dancing, right?"
Yeah. Well, the thing is, that's great.
You can still do that now, I suppose, but
Well, what's great is the lady whistle down. The voiceover is saying a few things, and one of the things she's saying is that ladies try to avoid a condition called spinster. I actually started to suspect at this point in the show that for some reason there was some money problem in the house. And that like he needed to sell her off in some way, which actually like we can make that a spoiler alert. That actually is not a plot in the show at all.
Right, because I was thinking he was up to some shit. I was like, why is this so important to him?
Yeah, it seemed really like they threw that out in a red herring kind of way. So I'm not sure, but it was really interesting to me that was happening. But it doesn't pan out. It's just a really weird way that they introduce this part. But anyway, then Marina shows up.
Right.
And our girl Marina is at the ball, and everybody is also looking at her. Everybody's so interested in her. They think she's so pretty. It's just funny that like the way we reacted to Daphne in the beginning of her being plain, quote unquote, this Marina is like more exotic. And actually, I actually think Daphne's prettier. So like, I wasn't really worried about this. And when we wake, just like you said, we hear the Maroon 5 Girls Like You, this is when it comes in, and all the maids are making the beds and the houses, and the Featherington and the Bridgerton houses are like sort of set up, into motion to get ready for this day. And we get there, and guess what? Anthony comes in, sees all these people, has a hissy, and sends them away. Like, what?
Right.
I mean, he what? And then over at the Featherington house, there's just like lines and lines and lines of dudes now waiting to see Marina. So all of a sudden, the diamond of the first water does not seem like
looking so much.
So she is a little frustrated, our Daphne.
She is.
And she seems to have every right to be. I mean, again, her brother just is like trying to screw her.
But they end up having a conversation about, we learned that, Penelope likes the younger Bridgerton bro.
Right. We learn that as we sort of like see them interact. And then finally, though, some time passes and the house is like empty, and finally Daphne just goes to a picnic in the park, or basically Daphne and her brother are walking through the park, and when they're walking through the park,
They're on horses.
They are?
Yep, they're on horses.
So they're on, again, another instance when Daphne starts going in the seesaw, right? Because Daphne stops her brother and she has this very serious talk with him. And she's like, she says like very, very blatantly to his face, like, I've been waiting for this moment. This is my only value. What I have to bring is like my marriage prospects, and like, that's what a woman does, and how I take care of my family, and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird because like in so many of these shows, we have like women pushing against that, like being sort of this like chattel kind of thing. But we have Daphne here, like really taking ownership of that and saying, this is my value. I'm going to like go after, I'm okay with the game that's expected of me. And I want to freaking win that game. I want to play it well. Let me do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is really amazing and interesting, because normally the conversation is, I don't want, it's like the Eloise conversation. You know, that's the conversation we're going to have when we get to Eloise. And just like, she doesn't want to get married because blah, blah, blah. She wants her freedom and da, da, da. Like, Daphne's not about that life.
Right. Not at all.
Like,
she's with the status quo.
Yeah. And she's like, let me get in here. Let me play this marrying horse race game, brah. And so we go back in time, like while this is happening with Daphne and her brother and their leisurely lifestyle, we go back to the Duke's life for a little minute. And now Lady's whistle down voice again is, you know, going over the column. And we still see the passage of days, and Daphne is not getting any more visits. And so finally we sort of, day becomes afternoon or evening, tea time, or sorry, probably cocktail hour. And now we're at the club, and at the club we find Bridgerton and Hastings, right? They are just like I love how like they hang out in this boys club thing where they hang out. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it? It's like their little clubhouse, but it's kind of hot. It's this legit sort of like gentleman's club life. And they actually filmed this at a members club in London. And it's called the Reform Club in Pall Mall. Winston Churchill was once a member. So I think that just the whole look and feel of this, I just love how these characters keep coming back to this sort of scene, you know, because it's like they're noblemen, you know, like as much as we kind of like gloss over that in this show, they're noblemen, and they just like prance around all day in these like little clubs and do like nobleman things. Like nobility things. And it's just so weird. And so during this conversation, Anthony, Bridgerton bro, he's like, yo, Hastings, what are you doing? Why aren't you getting married? And Hastings like, you know, I'm not about that life. And he's like, well, you got to figure it out, because like you can't shit around all the time. And Hastings is like, well, look at you. And Bridgerton's like, yo, I got brothers. Like, I could take my time. Like, there's like, the line is not going to die out. And so that's when we see that Hastings says something like he's going to be the last of his life. Like, that's when we see that Hastings, like, not marrying is like about something other than just like not having found the right girl. Right.
But we just don't know yet what it is.
We don't know what it is, but we know it's like something kind of serious. And then like after that, we go back to the Featherington home, and the sort of Lady Whistledown comic now is like she's pitting the Marina and Daphne against each other. Mm-hmm. She's making it like this boxing matchup. And then so now, because everyone is like reading this and like going over and trying to see who's going to win this matchup. And so we go to the opera.
But we now learn who, what's his name? Oh, wait. Is this when we first learned that Sienna's the opera singer?
Yes, this is when we first see someone familiar. And that person who's familiar is on the stage singing that aria is Bridgerton Bro's like side piece.
Yeah, Anthony's Sam Creed.
She's singing on the thing, and you see Daphne is like so into her singing, and she literally is just sitting there like raptly watching, and Lady Danbury, who is the Duke's aunt, is sitting there next to Dowager Viscountess Bridgerton, and the two of them are like cooking up a scheme to get Daphne and Hastings to meet. And she's like, "Yo, Hastings loves gooseberry pie. Like, have some for him, and like, want to have him over or whatever." And so the mom is all like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." These ladies are cooking up a scheme, and Daphne's looking all like into the aria, so like as if she has no idea what's going on. Like she's a little girl. Like, come on now, 2 seconds ago you just said you were with it. Like you know that the scheming needs to happen. You know what kind of scheming needs to happen. But you just think that these ladies are just hanging out for the good of their own selves?
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Anyway. It's so crazy. Daphne is just, I never know how smart she is going to be in a scene. Back at Bridgerton family, now we're actually at the dinner. There's a family dinner, and the Duke is there, and he's like hanging out. He's just hanging out there as like a buddy of Antony's. Because they're just like, oh, we're just like noble, we're like noble bros, like whatever. Yeah. No. We just hang out each other. It's like, that's what we do. And then finally, like we get the two of Daphne and Hastings wind up they wind up exchanging some barbs. Neither one of them is thrilled that the other one is attending this dinner or that they're being thrown together. They see through it and they think it's ridiculous. And I
don't know if it's ridiculous. They seem to be annoyed with each other that the other one is not thinking about the other one, because that seems to be the main point of all of their arguments is I was not thinking of you. Well, neither was I. Of you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
all right.
He calls her desperate and she says that she's not interested.
Right. But this keeps happening.
Anyway, so now after that, we're in the drawing room after dinner is over. Because Antony realizes what the heck his mom just tried to pull by inviting, Hastings.
I love this scene. We do not have to break this all down. You just need to watch it, because you gotta love a scene where the kid, even if the kid is grown, when he tries it with his mama, and his mama basically says, I brought you in this world that I could take you out. He was sitting there trying to tell her what it was, just because dad ain't around no more, because dad died and he's the man of the house, so whatever. He was trying to tell her some shit. She was like, oh, so when you go home, or if you go see that soprano that lived downtown, then his face was like, oh. She was like, right, that's what I thought. Yeah. She was like, are you a man? He was like, you a bro or you a man?
Yeah, and then she legit is like, because he tries to say something about his father. She's basically like, if your father was here, we wouldn't be in any of this mess. This whole mess that you caused by driving the suitors away, this whole hot mess of you just being crazy and not getting married, like, nah, your father wouldn't have been having any of this. Don't even try to bring your father up here. Exactly. Agreed. She's just really like, you're right. This scene was just so like, and the thing is, the mom is into the arms of his soprano.
And he's a piece of shit.
And he runs into her arms, and after he's had a good time in those arms is when he breaks up with her.
And then she's like, you just said, and he was like, well, it was like from Evita. She said, where will I go now? And the bitch was like, don't ask anymore. Get out. He was like, I don't know. He was like, figure it out.
It was very, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. It was very that, like, Rhett Butler. The last, like, party that we go to in this episode, they call it Vauxhall. And the set is really beautiful. Mm-hmm. And, like, it looks like this really interesting, like, almost like Roman pleasure garden kind of set thing. And apparently that was a real thing in England. This Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens was a real place. But it doesn't exist anymore. And but it used to be a leading venue for public entertainment and local events. they made use of a castle in York and a temple of Venus at Stone Park and put that together to make this kind of this set. But this set was so gorgeous to me. Again, we're intercutting between this party in Vauxhall, and now we're back to the Featherington estate for a second. And
she's getting I wrote down Blanche finds out Miss Thompson. I've been calling her Blanche Devereaux because that's who she looks like to me. She looks like Rue Callahan. So I've been calling her Blanche. So Blanche finds out Miss Thompson's pregnant.
Yeah, so all this stuff is going on back and forth. And then we see Anthony and Daphne, they're at this like cute little outdoor venue, and the fairy lights, the Edison globes are on, and it's so pretty, the little fairy lights in the set. But he's being miserable because remember, Anthony's just broken up with his girl, and he's super miserable. And so now he's just being such a dick that he's telling Daphne that she has to marry Grossy McGrocerson, like that old ass Lord Burbrook dude. And he says to her, "It should be just as easy for you to fall in love with Lord Burbrook as anyone else. I shall not hear of this." Bruh, you got a secret mistress that you have apparently had for long enough for even your mama to know who that is, and yet you don't understand being attached to somebody? Get out of here.
This man has a comb over and more gum than teeth, and you want me to do what now? Get out of here.
Get out of here. Like, the whole thing is, he's just like, he's miserable, so everybody has to be miserable. And it's crazy that he's on this cuckoo-ness. And anyway, the thing is, again, Daphne knows, and she says it in the scene, that she cannot go off by herself unaccompanied. Because if she's off by herself unaccompanied, and any man comes up to her, and then a third party sees her with a man unaccompanied,
that means they had sex.
Her reputation is going to be soiled. She knows this. Yet she still takes a walk down a thing that she, later in the scene, calls the dark path.
I was on the dark path alone.
So exactly. So again, Daphne is bright enough, savvy enough to know that that's a thing, but she's also dumb enough to put herself in this position. Like, again, Daphne is always like, I'm always confused. Like, is she smart? Is she not smart? And I get signals in the same scene that tell me, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah.
I agree.
Like, it's so frustrating. And anyway, of course, she's on the dark walk. Burbrook comes up to her and tries to attack her. And
she gave him a 2-piece and a biscuit. Nah, she just punched him once. Just pop right in the face.
Yeah, there's like a right cross or something she has, man. It's insane. And she and so she just goes up to him. She like pops him. She saves herself. And Hastings comes to the rescue. And now this is when
the master plan
goes
together.
Down. So tell us how it happens, Cam.
So basically, the master plan is for them to both not be bothered. Duke of Hastings by moms that he don't want to marry none of their daughters anyway because he said he would never marry. And B, Daphne would look so desirable to all the other suitors that she would definitely get what she wanted instead of having Lord Burbrook pushed on her by her brother. And this is the decision they make. And he said, in order for this to work, we must look madly in love. And they walk down the walk and they walk back into the ball, and you see all the lights are out and everyone's out dancing and they're holding it. This is
so
I had forgot about this scene from watching it the first time, but then watching it over again, I was like, God damn, he's so fine. He said, we have to appear like we're madly in love. He said, look into my eyes. And he said, come closer. And I was like, oh my God. But yes, and that was it. And that is how it ends. So now you know what the master plan is about to be. They're going to be fake together. They're about to 90-day fiancé this so that she could get the husband that she wants and he can get the women off his back.
Yeah, they both are going to get something out of this devil's bargain.
Right.
It's really exciting. So I think So I think it's a good setup for a show, honestly. I like that as a setup for the show. I think for this show, that's probably for the pilot, that's probably enough. And
I agree.
I was like wanting to see more of this show after the first episode. I don't actually think that I watched like all of them together, but
I did, because I just got hooked, and there's only 8 episodes. So once I got to episode 6, I was like, well, you might as well just stay up and watch 7 and 8, because you're supposed to be laying here in bed wondering what happened. So I just watched the whole.
On a scale of 1 to 5 mimosas, how many did you give the pilot?
No, I'll give it 5 mimosas. The pilot episode was interesting. It set up the characters. You got the feel of who they were, or the type of feel they wanted you to have for the people. I feel like you got it.
I feel like we have to decide how we're going to grade on this show. It's like, I don't want to grade like we grade in an Uber. Because we know like Uber, like if you even are in the 3s, they fire you. But 3 in real life is like the middle.
That's average.
Right. And so I think 4 is good and 5 is like
exceptional.
Unbelievable,
So
exceptional.
4.
I feel like it's in the 4 point something or 4 stage for me. I'm going to give this a flat 4.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I agree. I'm changing it back to 4.
Yeah. And that being said, I don't want to be unnecessarily harsh to things either. But yeah, I think it was a solid 4. You can find out more about us on our website, which is www.brunchandbinge.com. We can also be found as user Brunch and Binge on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Gmail. And finally, if you love us and want to help out the podcast, feel free to donate to us as user Brunch and Binge via Patreon, Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal.
Thanks for stopping by. This is Cam C.
And this is Nomi.
And we'll see you next time on Brunch and Binge.
Bye, guys.
FYI, intro and outro music provided by Gabriel Royal, and the song is called G Major Suite. Go find our buddy and give him a listen.